Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling the Dragon's Lair 2 demonstration disc, not for resale. Press copy of Dragon's Lair 2 for the Philips CDI. Or we'll stick with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Howdy. Good to be back. It's been a while. Took last week off and had an unexpected outage the previous Thursday that prevented me from streaming. We were having off and on internet connection issues, and finally got somebody to come out to look at them, and it turned out that a coupler across the street had cracked, and I guess the lasers were close enough that they were getting there sometimes, but eventually I think as the heat changed from night to day, the crack expanded and contracted and eventually got worse to the point where it just failed completely. It wasn't anything that I could diagnose at home, so they came out and they fixed it and everything's good. And we're happy and back in business. I left that Wednesday, a week ago Wednesday. We started working on NZ1, which is the clock tower. We found the Harpy, and I think I'm going to keep working on the Harpy, but I'm going to go over a few other things. I actually haven't looked at, after being gone about a week and a half, haven't looked at what has changed. I did notice that a bunch of PRs that were out have been closed. I'm guessing I still have a few of mine that haven't been closed. I have some that are kind of bigger changes that probably need attention, and I'll probably do that sometime this week. But let's look a little bit at what's happening. So last week we imported NZ1, or the clock tower as it's known, in the initial castle, and I wanted to import both the PSP version as well as the PlayStation version, which is pretty unique. I usually just work on the PlayStation version, but there were some things with the Richter boss that it was nice having the PSP version around, and if I would have been generating symbols along the way, that would have been helpful for just the advantages that the PSP gives, which is that it's a non-optimized build, and so having more information in that disassembly is useful. But I ran into some issues, and there were issues that we talked about earlier this summer, maybe a month or so ago, about how we didn't necessarily have good tooling around the MetroWorks overlay, and it just so happened that a bunch of things came together at just the right time, and a bunch of us were looking at this all together. I think it was Ethan, I believe it was Ethan at the Tech, who wrote Splat. He had come across the header file for the MetroWorks overlay, Project Oblivion, referenced it as well, and it was a little different than we had been using in this project, so integrating some of that stuff made importing that easier, but our tool for generating config was confusing some of the ideas, and so all of the offsets and VRAM addresses that we usually are able to map were wrong for the NZ1 overlay. And so the week before last, I spent a good deal of time trying to manually realign all these things, and it was a pain, and eventually I got it, and so we do have a PSP build that is going. Of course, as soon as I say that, it's not going anymore. Let's try to fix this one. My guess is that I have some include ASM macros that are pointing to the wrong place, but let's check it out and see. I'm a little surprised at this. There's nothing that I did that should have changed this, so let's figure out what's going on, and then we'll get back into Harpy. So, I did that's what I did. I ran a make format, and it may have caused this file to be regenerated in a way that I didn't like. So let's try that again. So I'm going to go to the splat config for this. Hey, does it good to have you back? Yeah, quite empty. I have a double YouTube stream, double rainbow. Yeah, I'm using Stream Elements, and Stream Elements gave me 2 YouTubes in my list, in my multi-stream list, and I don't know why or how to fix it, so maybe I'll have to go to Stream Elements and delete my delete my connection there and reconnect, because I do see 2 on this, and I didn't know how it was going to work. But hey, if you're watching on one stream and you want to go to the other stream, the stream that has more people, that'd be great. Oh, connect, that's what I'm thinking of. So I'm going to try to regenerate this file, and it's pretty easy. We can just remove this file and make sure that I touch the splat config. Next time splat runs, it will regen that file. Unfortunately, the regenerated file will have the wrong paths, because we use these abbreviated paths. I think this was originally to be able to use the same include ASM lines across multiple versions of the game, but what ended up happening is we namespace them anyway. Not always, but sometimes. And create entities having the same problem. Not sure why. What happened to these, but we'll get through it. I did have a clean build. Which I was happy about. There might be something I missed along the way, though. And if I can't get it in a few tries, then we'll just move on. We don't need the PSP build, it's just nice to have. I'm somewhat worried that I'm going to have to regenerate all these files, but we'll see. Make sure that I'm in the PSP version. Yeah. Sorry about this. We'll get through it quick. This is a much nicer. Try this. If it's just that. So yeah, there's something you possibly these symbols change. So let's look at this. As BC98 is the automatic name or auto-generated name that was given to this function. So let's delete this file, regenerate it, and see. BC98 is still the file name. I'm not sure what. What is. It's possible. Let me try one more thing. I'm just gonna delete the new lines here. It's possible that the way that this is breaking, doing the line breaks, is screwing with MWCC gap. So in this case, eCollect, it looks like there's a missing jump table. The jump table shouldn't make a difference. We see what is being generated though. It's like I screwed that up, yeah. Let me fix eCollect. There we go. This include RO data with a jump table is odd. That should be included automatically. Not quite sure what might be causing that. We'll keep going. As long as I have the jump table in the right place. Over here. So the jump table should be associated with the correct file. And as long as that's true, it shouldn't make a difference. It should be automatically imported into this assembly file, and we can look at that in a second. A little sad though. Oh, there we go. So whatever was going on, now it is working again. We'll add all those. And make sure that that gets checked in. Gotta make sure that everyone knows the license. We do use AGPL, Ifuro GPL 3.0, which I believe is a modification to the GPL, which says if you're hosting this on a server and that server is publicly available, like the software is publicly available on a server, and you're deriving some program from it, you have to publish your source as well. Some of that came from tooling and other things that have been built that we wanted to make sure stayed open source, since we're publishing all of this freely. All right, so let's try it again. We have our US version making correctly, and we'll try the PSP version, and that is working as well. Great. Good. So we're going to go back to decomp.me. We're at about 81%. I haven't looked at this at all, so I don't know what might be remaining here, but we will find out. And I think that I'm going to go with the PSP version. Let's see. Let me make sure that these are synced first. It looks like there is some differences between the PSP version and the PS1 version. I'm going to try pasting the PSP version. That does get us closer. So I'm going to assume that the PSP version is what I was working on last. I'll go over the differences quickly and how I... hey, Romy, good to have you back. How I'm going to go about finding these differences. What we want is a matching decompilation. So the code that we produce should compile back to the same thing. I need to move my chat closer to my other screen because Dizik called out my error way sooner than I caught it for myself. Oh, come on. I hate OBS's panel manipulation. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Let's move it over here, resize, and see if we can... Oh, can I not? Great. 1 second. let's- Where is my multi-chat? Hey, OTM. Yeah, it has been a minute. Now I moved it to my main screen and it's on top of everything. And it is hiding behind the menu bar, full screened. Well, what can I do? What can I do? Well, let's see if I can add a new dock this way. Let's close multi-chat there. And open it back up again. Well, this is new to me. Oh. And it opened full screen again. What a pain, what a pain. Oh, great. Let me see if I can move it back at least. There we go. Sorry for my window management woes. 1 second. Almost got it. Almost got it. And then I lost it. This. Bringing it to another window seemed to give it back to me as a window. There we go. Why can't I resize this chat box? Lovely. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep going, and we'll see. We'll see if I can manage this. I can't see myself. I can just see chat. A very large chat window. Come on, chat. You can do it. You can do it. Go. Just redock yourself. It sounded worse than it was. All right. Let's just keep going, and we'll see. We'll see how things go. I have other ways of getting YouTube chat. All right. So yeah, like I said, what I want to do is go through, just look at what the differences are, and then hopefully from there we can see what the next course of action is. So the first thing is the stack is too large. There's at least 2 variables on the stack, possibly one. Oh, that's fine. So we have something that's what, 64 plus 32, 96 bytes off the current stack pointer is where we're storing A0. That may suggest that we have some large struct or array on the stack that's pretty big. And sometimes that happens. There's just this like random blob that appears on the stack. Oh, but actually, that's in my stack, not the original. So something is there that is causing this to be pushed way far away from the current stack pointer. An additional 64 bytes from what the original has. So hopefully we can find that. It may be all these superfluous variables. We'll have to go through and get rid of those. 71 is where I'm going to start. There is the load of the set step variable that's out of order. A little strange. It's being written to the A1 register, which is used for the first argument of a, sorry, the second argument of a function, and then being moved from A1 into A0. That seems unnecessary. It's possible that this is being put into a variable, and then being passed in, and that variable is being assigned register A1. It's just a little strange. So we'll keep going. Sometimes those work themselves out, sometimes not. And this is kind of the inverse of that. No, it's the same. And again, it's just happening on ours, not in the original. So I think that'll work itself out later. A lot of these moves are superfluous. Here's the first one that, this isn't really important either. So this is pushing something to the stack when it should be in a variable. We can start tracking the variables and see if we can try to determine what variable we should be using. And here, down in 93, let's go down there. This may, it looks like this may be just an ephemeral register as opposed to something we really care about. These are going into S4. The multiply by 2 is also being stored back to S4, which is a little strange because we need that later, but it can do that because S4 is getting pushed to the stack. Let's see if we can reuse an angle variable. Do I have angle yet? I don't. It looks like it's going to be a sine 16. And we should see that temp S0 is already a sine 16. So we could just reuse that one. Let me redo that again. My global copy pasta is going to be my downfall. I'm going to be a little more precise with how I do those replacements. And then I'll move that up. And one of the things I may do, since I have these registers highlighted, is track S2 and see if it's used elsewhere. And if it is, like down here, 122, and we're seeing similar use here, it's likely that this is the same variable. And GCC, which used the register S0 for this, already knew that, or hinted at it. And I'm going to get rid of the casts there for hygienic reasons. Now I lost them. But we might start seeing those variables start to align. I'm going to keep going and see if it's used elsewhere. 128. We already have it there. And let's see if our S5 now is tracking closely with it. Somewhat, not quite. Up on 88. So it's being used as a ephemeral register here, and then getting assigned an actual value and being associated with a variable. So that can be hard to track. 133, this looks like it is going to be angle as well. So I can do a global replacement. We're going to get 2 of them up here now, and I need to get rid of the second. Now it's S6 on the right hand side, and we'll see that as things go along, is that the value kind of keeps moving around on the right side until we're closer, and then it should eventually consolidate to the same place. Oh, I was wrong. I chose the wrong one. It's not the result of RTAN, it's this S2 here. So same thing. We're getting a little further away, and that might happen. I'm not too worried about it yet. I may go back though and check every once in a while to see if this is getting closer. I'm guessing that a lot of these will end up being the same thing, like up on 132. I mostly need to make sure that when this happens, if this is being overwritten, that the right value is being overwritten. Let me revert that for a second and just look at this one more time. I was curious about this temp v0 and if this was part of the same thing. It definitely looks like it is. I may have been wrong again. And my previous change might have been, I'm gonna back out a couple of these. Or no, what did I start at? What did I start at? 74. So that I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Hey, Pau. Oh, awesome. Good to hear. Pau, still don't have YouTube chat overlay. I'm working on it. But he said a couple weeks ago, we were talking about some of the legalities of decompilation. My perspective is always going to be from the US, since that's where I'm living and that's where I do my decompilation. In the US, it's pretty straightforward. We can do whatever we want. As long as we own a copy of the game, we're not distributing copywritten materials. There's actually a discussion about this on Hacker News this morning. The Duke Nukem, I'm going to get the name of the game wrong. One of the N64 Duke Nukem games reached 100%, and that's good to talk about too. It's fun to talk about. Decomp news. Let me find that. Duke Nukem 0 Hour. So this is notable for being a recompilation of the original like PC version of the game. It's the closest to the PC version of the game. Apparently the PlayStation versions of Duke Nukem were built off of, somebody suggested the Tomb Raider engine. And so there was a discussion on Hacker News then about this, and I mean, this is a pretty significant goal. They use a lot of the same tools that we're using here: Splat, M2C, Decompermuter. I don't use the ASM differ, but I believe Decompermuter does. So a lot of this is largely the same. So notable about this version of Duke Nukem is code-wise, it uses the same map generators and other things like that as the PC version. And so there's discussion. Some people think decompilation is totally illegal and you're breaking all kinds of copyright laws. And I haven't looked at any of this, by the way. Somebody did point out that a lot of auto-generated symbol names are here, and that is definitely true. Other people wanted to use AI and LLMs to do the decompilation for you, and I really do think that there is a road in the middle. You have to respect copyright. You have to respect any laws around intellectual property, not just for ethical reasons, but for legal reasons. You don't want to... any of these companies have way more money, resources, and lawyers than any of us, and so you don't want to have to deal with anything like that. But in the US, our copyright system allows for a significant amount of fair use regarding reverse engineering and subsequently decompilation. And a lot of that has to do with the code that we generate is a new creative work. It's not derivative. Humans are involved in producing it. The code that is produced is in no way based on code that was originally compiled. It just happens to compile to exactly the same thing. And because it compiles to exactly the same thing, we get the benefit of being able to both own the copyright to the code that we're producing, as well as produce something that compiles to the same thing as the original game. When you use an LLM to do that for you, LLMs are not only trained on copyright written material that now is being licensed by these AI companies. They've paid significant amount of money to publishers to legally use books and other things like that for training their models. But what the LLMs produce is, because of how they're trained, is a derivative work. And a derivative work cannot be a new creative work, and therefore is not copyrightable, and ends up being an infringement on existing copyright. So I think it's pretty clear cut. Not everybody agrees with that. But if I was to be ever in legal jeopardy over decompilation, I would much rather point to the things that I do to make this a unique creative work, rather than having to fall back and say an LLM generated this for me. I think I'm gonna... what is going on here? 139. We are using S2 and the call to this sign. There's some other variables here that are complicating the stack. Things getting pushed to the stack. So I am going to continue down this path. But move a little later. Let's do 211. It looks like this pattern is used again and again It looks like... Oh, I lost my S2. It looks like this is being used as just an ephemeral register, so I don't have to worry about it there. I'm guessing this 256 is the same thing. So it looks like that might be the end of the angle. Maybe not, maybe 275. Let's go down there. S2 is being used for a pointer here. But then it is being used again. 275, yeah, for the arg here as well. There are a bunch of moves here that seem like they may be wrong. So again, it's being used as the ephemeral value for the switch. Here we have a bunch of ands, which likely means we have the wrong type. Let's see where those are. It's, yeah, from the casts here. The casts were generated by the GCC code. M2C running on the GCC code. Oh, and this is going to be just a minus equals or a plus equals. That gets rid of the SEH instructions, sign extend half. And looks like the same thing here. I don't think that this is going to affect Zper. It actually was not that. It's the pos Y. Missed that. Oh yeah, because we're going from entity to self, yeah. So we need both of those. A lot of low-hanging fruit here. 341. Self plus BC. BC is the size of an entity of which self is a pointer. And so that's just M2C not knowing how to do pointer arithmetic correctly. It looks like this is being stored in a variable before being used as an arg. Let me see if I do have an entity variable. So we'll do entity equals self plus 1 and then pass entity as the arg. I'm not sure what is causing let's try this. We'll do entity and then entity plus plus. See if we can generate the same thing. So that may be what's causing this. So we're assigning to S0 first. There is no assignment though here. So I'm gonna revert it and hope that other things end up producing the correct code there. All these moves and everything are largely a result of too many variables on the stack. All right, so we have some masking. It looks like the masking probably, again, is not priority, not being able to spell and grabbing the wrong value here. Move entity does not take an argument, I don't think. So somewhere in GCC version, the value 2 is being stuck in the A0 register. So M2C takes that when it doesn't have the function signature, it assumes that that's an argument to that function. So just an unnecessary arg. And it looks like this is that where that 2 is. The 2 may be going into a variable, 368 here. This is the entity ID, basically the type that's being used. Looks like we have a plus equals down here. My guess is that there's a bunch of masks down here. Let's get rid of those casts. Same thing up here. That's made the same mistake. This could be a difference between the two versions. It may be a bug fix. And it possibly was setting entity Z priority in the PlayStation version. We have some, sign extension here. I'm gonna try to redo that and see if that makes a difference. Yeah, that looks like it's fine. $385. A mask means that we're treating it as a Boolean instead of doing an actual check against 0. The pad, the constant here is different between the PSP and the PlayStation version of the game. I just ignore these usually and stick with it would require changing the context depending on the version of the game. We can't have macros that switch based on the version of the game for M2C. Like M2C can't deal with those. So I usually just leave them. Same thing here. I use the PlayStation versions and just remember which one is which and what those mean. Same thing here with the step regarding truthiness. And then it looks like we're at the bottom. So there still is a bunch of variables to get rid of. Still stacked too big. Our stack is getting smaller, which is good. I'm gonna move distance up. And then I think maybe we'll start going through and trying to find registers. So the way that I deal with registers is highlight them, try to find the matching variable that we have so far. And in the best case, something like S6, for example, usually it's not used as an ephemeral register. The lower S's maybe, but not the higher ones. And so S6, I should be able to pretty reliably identify a consistent variable throughout the function. So if we can find it highlighted, we should be able to map it to a variable that we have. And oh, that variable happens to be S6. And we just want to see what that is. So on 134, right now it's temp S2. Great, great name. Let's highlight those again. We just want to see if they're always being used consistently, and they're not going to be because this was an auto-generated name. And every time S2 gets overwritten, M2C puts a subscript after it so that it doesn't accidentally overwrite it. It tries to keep a thread of similar use, which doesn't always work. So 143, we have the same. So temp S2 is basically getting a plus equals here. And then all of these just become references to that. By doing that, our S6 turned to S5, and that's fine. We don't need them to be the same yet. We just need them to be used the same way throughout. 272. These aren't always, it's not always straightforward to identify these. But it looks like possibly this tile map scroll position ends up being the same. Not quite sure. Let's see how it's used later on. 276. Possibly angle. Now we do have S2 in here though as well. I'm gonna try using it here. And see if we get what we want. It does not look like it. Yeah, that's getting pushed back to the stack yet. So I'm not sure. Not sure. Yeah, okay, so it's being used again as an ephemeral here. So that's a pretty high register to be used as an ephemeral value. A little surprised by that. It looks like it is being used for real here. Is that correct, or is it still ephemeral? No, it's not. That's just how it's being used in art. Okay, keep going. Now let's try this one, 372. And it's ephemeral down here as well. So I think that's it for that one. Not perfect. I'm a little surprised, but this function does have a lot of code in it, and usually that means a lot of different ephemeral values. So 79. This is ephemeral. Search for abs. Did I may have screwed up a copy pasta. Oh, that's interesting. So this absolute value, that's kind of funny. In old C, you didn't have to pre-declare functions, and so they were given a default argument. Thank you for that. They were given default arguments, or sorry, a default signature, and the default signature was that it returned an int, and it took an arbitrary number of int size, whatever your platform int sized arguments was. And so when I screwed up that that copy paste by putting it outside the parentheses, this became a function with no arguments named apps temp s23, and that's perfectly fine in C89. No issues. Yeah, hi Willcraft. Unfortunately, there are two YouTube streams. It's a stream elements issue that I haven't worked through yet. Hopefully, I'll have it fixed by tomorrow. I don't know why Stream Elements thinks I have or want 2 YouTube streams, but it does. All right, let's get back to finding that S5. So when I say it's an ephemeral value, what I mean is we see this basically as one long expression. Let's find this on 82. Yeah. I have all the upstream bandwidth that I can stand, so I'll give them 50 streams if they want. That's fine with me. The joys of a symmetric connection. I should make a Harpy entity extension. That would be a good idea. Anyway, back to the idea of I call them ephemeral values. What I mean, they're intermediate values, I think, is used sometimes in documentation. We have something like this expression in the middle of the larger expression. So we have a assignment, an addition, and an assignment, and each one of these steps, like reading the value that's at this array. That value needs to go into a register before anything else can be done with it. Adding the value at that register with 32, that result needs to go into a register. It could go into the same register because we don't need this value anymore. Assigning that register back doesn't require any new registers, but doing the AND with this mask does. And so we need some temporary registers, and that's usually what there's some T registers for temp. Often the V registers, which are really the purpose for them is return values. There's V0 and V1, but until you're returning from the function, those can be used for whatever the compiler wants. There's the A registers, which are used for function arguments, but until you call a function, they can be used for whatever you want. Basically, all these registers have different suggested purposes, but they all can do the same things. What is nice about the unoptimized MetroWorks is largely it will choose one of the S registers as a for each variable it will assign an S register and use that consistently throughout the function. Sometimes though, if that variable isn't being used and it needs more of these intermediate values, it will choose some of those S registers to use as well, even if that S register is used later for a variable. Often we can infer that if an S register is being used, that there may be a variable assignment as well. So on 86, this is going back to the stack pointer, but it may be going into the result may be going into a variable first and then being assigned. And so let's look at S3. It might not be that. That could be ephemeral or intermediate. You can't tell. You just, based on what we've seen with this, how MetroWorks works, often an assignment to an S register is an indication that a variable is being used. So 127, possibly the same register or variable, possibly not. Yeah, it's hard to know. I'm not seeing anything super obvious. And then what you can also see is, are we loading things to the stack and reading them back from the stack? Those are indications that those definitely are variables, or I shouldn't say definitely, most likely are variables, because you might need all your registers and you have to overflow to the stack. 128, missing distance y plus. Yeah, probably. Is that right? No, where are we? In the wrong place. Load word. What is going on here? We're loading this back from the stack. Ah, I see. Yes, possibly. Looks like a subtraction, possibly. And so we see the same thing here. So S3 should be being used. And so if we're tracking, I might look at what M2C says here. So this does look like it's being assigned to this S3 variable, and possibly the subtraction is happening here. And then we're just using this temp. Let's try that. Is that looking more rightish? Yeah. Yeah, that looks better. I'm gonna take this and see how we're doing on the PlayStation. So we've been looking at the PS3 version of the game. PSP version of the game. Wouldn't it be great if there was a PS3 version of the game? Speaking of the PS3 version of the game, a little closer, 90%. Looking good. Still too much on the stack. Harmony and Dissonance features Alucard and a lot of the same graphics from this version of the game, but you have the ability to zoom out. And I always thought that would be an awesome feature. Maybe one day when we have more of this decompiled, we can see if we can get to that. What was this earlier? That return seems superfluous. I'm gonna choose another one. See if we can get rid of some of these. I might look at some of these down here as well. There are cases where these are being used and they shouldn't be. So set substep, for example, does not take 2 args. So this temp A1 is not necessary. And it's just an artifact of not having the function signature when the decompiler runs. And so look at all these that don't need to be there. These do not affect the stack size. They just are noise. If they're not used, they don't hurt anything. I do like to get rid of them though, if I can, because it makes just reduces some of the unnecessary noise. I'm guessing that there is a common variable here that I'm missing. Anything with V0 in it is a pretty good candidate. Well, these names came from the PlayStation, so it's the PlayStation, or sorry, the GCC uses variable or registers more freely. All those V1s are gone. MetroWorks is pretty good about putting variables into S registers and otherwise not using them for, or sorry, not using non-S registers for variables. It might use the stack, but it's not going to put an S register in like A0, for example. So I think consolidating the temp S2s might be possible. I do need to choose the right type. Let's go down to 107 and look at that. So the variable that's being used here, we see sign extensions, which means that it is a 16-bit value. And I think I had, didn't I have distance here? Distance or angle. Let's try using that here. So I think I was wrong. I think the sign extension may come from... No, it is loading a word. That's fine. The sign extension's on the next line. Uh, 111. This looks like it's... So we need to track S2 and figure out what S2 was. I think we knew what S2 was. I think that was distance originally. Let's find that. Oh, I have angle as S2. Which makes sense. So as long as we don't need angle again, which we don't, angle should be fine here. And that'll help start collapsing this. It looks like this is another one of those like plus equals assignments. And I'm basing that on the lack of... Is it happening in line? That could be, but it's weird. No, it is being assigned to the variable. So there's an additional move here. That's weird. Temp 0 or temp A0. Is that being set? No, it's not. We have an error there. I'm gonna go look at the M2C decomp. So we're at case 3. We're looking at this R sign. Looks like the A0 was just velocity Y originally. And all that now is the right thing. Yeah, so Dizek is saying 112 looks like it was, which is now, I believe, 111. Looks like it's the plus equals. We can look at what happens. So unfortunately, I think this is like a plus equals and then assignment. I can try moving it into this. What makes me think this is because this is unoptimized, if I was going to assign, if I was going to read this S16 value, could I do this? Let's try a couple of ways. So this is going to change the order of that assignment. And so now these are going to be in the wrong order. The right back to the extension field is going to be too late. If I do the plus equals before on its own, and then read back that value, GCC wouldn't have a problem with this. It'll use the cache value, but this unoptimized MetroWorks won't. Oh, is it doing the right thing? Looks like you're right. We do get to read it again. Very good, thank you. Always a pleasure. I'm not compiling. Oh, that's why it's working. That's why I'm not, there we go. So yeah, we're having to read that offset in memory, and we don't see that in the code. So we can't do that again. We have to have it in a register, and we have to use that. And because it's not optimized, we know that that's not the optimizer doing that. It's the code, the way that it was originally written, that's doing that. Which is really bizarre, but what are you going to do? This S2, we see that the sign less than ends up being what we're generating now is an unsigned, so the type of this is wrong. Looks like it's just an int. That might clean up a whole bunch, might not, we'll see. I'm gonna go back and see how the PlayStation's doing. Another %, that's good. Now let's look at these other uninitialized values. So this probably is the rotate. My guess is that it is just reading rotate again. Let's go down to 147. Yeah, we're loading that offset again. So that should be fine. We have all the same 1Es. And now that variable can go away. And one more, which is this temp s2 underscore 2. But not this one. This one down here. So this should be player position X, is my guess. Oh, there's a bunch wrong in this area. I'm going to go look at this. So this is case 7. So we do have player position X being red. All the same get side to player stuff. Our ARG is VARS1 up here. Okay, so it's the same one. And then what does that look like? Still a bunch of mess. So this is getting pushed to the stack. It looks like player, not self. No. Let's go back and look at that. So what M2C has generated is suggesting that this is not a switch, but a check specifically against case 2. And if it's not case 2, then we fall into a switch. However, that's basically the same thing. So I'm assuming that this is a switch, and M2C just doesn't recognize the pattern. However, facing left, player is being... Oh, this may throw a wrench into this, the way player is being pulled out. I will pull player up. Let's see where var A0 is. This is why it ends up being above the switch, because M2C doesn't know that it's not actually an argument to move entity. Let's help it out a little bit. We'll give it a proper signature, and then see what it does. Let me see what the get side to player. Yeah, that's void as well. Sorry, not void. It is, we'll say int void. I think that's fine. So that gives us not a separate player pointer, but, no, where was this? Where'd it go? But just using it. I don't know if this is true or not. Well, we can check. So our load into a variable looks fine. The facing left is what's not working out. I don't think that there's a second read there, or that's what it looks like anyway. Let's see, facing left. We're writing back here. And where is... I don't see a branch until much later. Which makes it seem almost like this is being done. Oops. This subtraction here. This is loading offset 2, and ours is going to have 2 loads of offset 2. This is only 1, so we're storing the position X off into a variable. It looks like A1. Yeah. So do we have a pos X? No. Let's make one. It will be a sine 16. I would imagine that this could be reused then. PosX must be a sine 32, sorry, because of this entity extension. Hey, Kasnor. Yeah. There are 2 live streams. It's my fault. I don't know how to use stream elements. Actually, maybe I do know how to use stream elements. I just want to increase viewership. No, the issue is Stream Elements thinks I have 2 YouTube streams, and it just worked out this way. I think I can do a minus equals here for pos X and a plus equals. We're gonna try it. And then we can get rid of this var S3. The only thing that seems like it's missing oh, we're pulling out pos Y as well, so we need a pos Y. Oh, offset 6 is pos Y. The week's been okay. I took a trip to the Tennessee and Kentucky area. Actually enjoyed that quite a bit. I've never been to that area of the country, and it's has a lot more trees than I'm used to, which was pleasant. So here's where player comes in. Being 3 hours different time zone though is wreaking havoc. The reason we need player is because we don't go back to G entities. We only read G entities once. So, I mean, who would write code this way? We probably wouldn't write code this way, but we're kind of subject to whatever whatever was chosen at the time by these engineers. I'm going to try to make this a pos x minus. Is that going to give me the move? It doesn't. Okay, so no difference there. I'm not sure what's causing the move here. I would like to know. And then did I screw this up? Yes, I did. So this is going to be pos x, and then hopefully this will be pos y. I'm not sure how aware the developers... late 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of superstitions about idiomatic code to write to get the compiler to do what you wanted it to do. And I do know that something like this, where you're going to pull player out into a pointer to player out into a variable so you don't have to index into that array twice. Some developers thought, well, the compiler is going to generate more optimized code because it doesn't have to go into that array twice. And in this case, that's true. If you're not using an optimizer, yes, it won't go back to that array and read from it twice. It'll look at your local variable, which will be in a register. But if you had optimization turned on, it would do that anyway, and the compiler would have done that for you. So I think there's just was a lot of superstition in general. It looks like actually there may be a minus equals here as well before the call to artan. And then we just pass pos x and pos y in. And so when we're trying to match, you just have to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the guy who is tasked with this and see if you can think the same way. And if the way that you're thinking about doing this was right or not. And so this looks more right. Again, it's not probably what you'd choose to write, but it's not our choice. Is it more right? It looks more right, but my number is more wrong. And that's okay. I'm going to go with pos x for these as well. I'm blanking on the handle. Occasionally there was someone who would pop into the stream and these moves are bizarre. He was doing a non-matching decompilation, and I think for a non-matching decomp, that would be fine. And maybe one day somebody will come through and choose a different way to do all these things. So our tile map loads are in the wrong order. Let's try this. Possibly is better. Or worse. We can start inferring though some meaning behind this. So offset 10 and offset 11 in this entity extension look like X and Y of something. So the harpies, what do? They throw knives, they have feathers that fall down. It's odd that this one lines up pretty well. So this looks like it ends up going inside of the condition. Is that gonna be better? 261. No, it's much, much worse. Oh my. I see. I think this is being done later. Possibly inline. Let's try it. Maybe not inline. No, not inline. Odd. All this is odd. So we have an extra move here. I'm not too worried about that. I think that'll fall out with some other work. But it looks like this is the right, ends up being the right set of operations. Gross. What is PLC code? Dizek says he's working on PLC code, modifying PLC code. Oh, programmable logic controllers. Oh, that's been a while. So PLCs they're like PICs, right? Before FPGAs? CNC programming, okay. And so my guess is that the people primarily writing the code are they probably maybe are more hardware oriented and you're more software oriented, possibly? Is that a good guess? A possible We're down. We have another 16 bytes off the stack. I think this temp A0 is gone now. Temp low is no mo. Do we have, is temp S2 gone? Temp S2 is gone. Oh, Good Bread. Good Bread says, sorry for this, maybe being a stupid question, but aren't there tools or AI you guys could just use to assist in the... You didn't say just. Couldn't you just AI this? Sorry. Ascribing spite to your question. Aren't there tools or AI you could use to assist in the decompiling? This looks like a bit like Sudoku solving. I use Sudoku as an analogy for this quite a bit, and this is my Sudoku. If I could do this on paper with a solution, man. Erase that from your brain. This is my new thing. Wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it be easier to have machines do this for us? Yes, it might be. So there's a couple things that that we need to do. So we're looking for a matching decompilation. We want the code that we create to compile back using the tooling that would have been used at the time, period correct tooling, to compile back to exactly the same thing. So that's step one. And how do we do that? We do that by painstakingly making sure our C compiles back. We don't have any tools to do that. There's lots of tools available for giving us an initial decompilation. So the tool that we primarily use is called M2C, machine to C. There's Ghidra, there's IDA. There's a bunch of tools that will do this. But none... So sometimes M2C will give us a perfect decompilation and it'll match exactly the first time. No existing tool will do that perfectly all the time. I have thought about writing bijections. So we're looking at like 90s era GCC and early 2000s MetroWorks here. MetroWorks we don't have the code for, we can't do anything about that. It's a black box. We have to treat it as a black box. GCC though, we do have the code for, and we even have Sony's extensions to GCC, which are all freely available in open source. So could you write a bijection for GCC to go through all the optimization passes and generate the reverse of those? And if you could you take the AST that's in GCC and dump it to code? Do you have enough information to be able to do that? Or if you don't have enough information to do it, could you put placeholders in where, if it's one way or the other, you could generate all the permutations that might be the thing and find the one that works. All of that is possible. I'm not going to talk about AI yet. And that hasn't been done. I'd be very interested, I think, in going back to GCC and trying to write bijections for. So what is a bijection? A bijection is I have a function, say addition. The bijection or inverse of addition is subtraction. So if I pass in code one way, I say take these two arguments and operate on them forward, then it gives you the addition. And then if I say operate on this answer backward and give me two operands, what is the output of that function? Infinite sets of two operands that would produce the same output. These things exist, and it's not always a one-way operation like that. So there's a possibility of being able to write a tool that could perfectly give you all the sets that could result in the same compilation. It'd be hard, but it could be done. We use heuristics mostly to do it. I'm gonna, while I'm talking, I'm gonna sync this with the PlayStation and see how that's going. Ooh, 95 on the PlayStation. That's looking really good. And our stack is correct on the PlayStation. So what is wrong? Maybe I'll work over here a little bit because this is very clean. So tools just don't exist that are that thorough. And the tools that we have are mostly good enough that I don't know that it would be very beneficial to do that. It'd mostly be like a very deep computer science type exercise, which is fun in its own right. We have a negation of a negation possibly here. No, a different, where is this 169? Here we go. Okay, so all that's possible, yeah, nobody's done it. And I think state of the art is not there. Interesting that these are out of order. I'm going to try putting them in the correct order and see if that helps. The other side of it is, can't we just use AI? Mostly for the same reason doing the bijection thing might not be the best. AI might not be the best either. Well, AI is not the best because we need this to be a unique and creative work to satisfy copyright laws. So AI is trained on copywritten material. I said this earlier in the stream as well. AI companies have now they've been sued, and so now they went and said, here's all this money, publishers, we're properly licensing what we've trained our models on. And almost by definition, what an AI outputs is a derivative work. And derivative means it's not transformative, it's not creative in any way. It's a mechanical procedure. You put some input in, and you get some input out, and it's no humans are involved in the process, no decision making. What we need to make this legal is for it to be a creative endeavor and to be a creative work, and we do that by I don't like this SH here. We do that by, is that not assigned back? No. Doing this manually. And since I'm doing this manually, this becomes a creative work. It's my own. I've written most of this code. A machine can't do it. We know that a machine can't do it because if it could, it would. And it can't. And because a machine can't do it, and only a human can, I've not derived this mechanically from the original binaries. I can't say the same thing though if, sorry, just looking at these variables. I can't say the same thing if AI does it for me. At that point, it's not mechanical anymore, or it's not creative anymore. Let's call this rotate. That seems like a good name for this guy. So I personally, there are people definitely doing this with AI on their own projects. I would not touch it because I don't want, I want to keep working on this. I don't want to be sued. My enjoyment of doing this has nothing to do with the legal system. And so I try to do what the legal system allows. I think I have to pull player out again here. So that's kind of a long-winded way of saying it. So the people I trust the most about this are the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the Video Game History Foundation, and they do the legal work. And so I can kind of sit back and look at cases that they've fought, look at the precedent that they've written papers about, and things like that. 174, Dizic says 174. So I've, unfortunately, because of what I think is the correct interpretation of that, and based on the cases that I've read, I try to stay away from, oh, this all might just be distance X. Interesting. Okay. I try to stay away from AI related stuff because it makes me nervous. And I don't want to be sued. And I don't want anything bad to happen to this project. It's not my project. I'm just a contributor. Where'd that other variable go? But there definitely are people using AI for other things. Other people don't want to do matching decomps. They want to do functionally equivalent decomps, and so they're going to work on that slightly differently. Let's try to find these other. I guess is that there are other cases here where I can start narrowing down these variables. What am I at? Still at 64. Let's find where offset 8 is, how it's being used. It might be easier said than done. This is offset 8 from variable v0. What I want is offset 8 from the stack pointer. I don't see it being used anywhere. I might have gone too quick. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. So don't take any of that as legal advice. That's basically I've been following reverse engineering and decompilation for a long time. That ultimately is the opinion that I made for myself. So do your own research and come up with your own conclusions. And I would be very happy for, we'll see this play out in the next, probably within the next 6 months, but minimally a year or two, where some major company is using AI generated things, OpenAI being one of them with their videos, Facebook being another with their videos, where some major commercial work that wasn't licensed by their models gets integrated somehow into the output of their models, and there will be a lawsuit, and we'll get some answers to a lot of these questions. We just don't have them right now. Dizic is yelling at me about 174. Let me look at that and see if 174 has changed. Negating. A negative value check 174. I'm sorry, Dizic, I missed your comment, and now my lines have changed. Oh, are these negative? I'm learning. Thank you. I think this might be my checkpoint for today. We'll see. 95.2, 97.5. Oh, looking good. Let's see if there's anything obvious. The PlayStation is looking very nice. Register issues. 278. Let's look at that. So this is inverted. Nope. So what is going on? Let's look at this. So case 12. Let's look at what that looks like on the PSP. I will try to you leave for a week and you forget how to see. I think I am gonna try to keep this up. Oh, XOR. Interesting. So yeah, we've seen this before. It just gets simplified, and that simplification ends up generating some superfluous code. So we should see that. Oh, I was hoping that was going to fill that in. What do I know? What do I know? So still not doing the right thing. Let's see if there's a... No, we definitely don't want to force the XOR. So I think over here we have the right branching. All that said, can we make improvements to the tooling that we have to generate things that are closer to what the original code might have looked like? Absolutely. Do I spend enough time doing those things? No. How much of this do we have to do manually for it to be a creative work versus just a M2C decompiled or Ghidra or IDA? I don't know. That is a great question. This looks like it might be a divide by equals. Let's try that. Nope, that's worse. So what are we subtracting? We're subtracting this from V0. Is it a mod? Mod is worse. What is... $12 is going to be, since this is hex, ABC. Yeah, this can't deal with the division. The code that gets generated for division is strange. But I'm pretty sure that is what this is. I'm not sure why we're getting an extra subtraction. 290. Oh, it's, I see. It's minus equals. $296. So things like the additional masking that's done, M2C could figure that out. I would be okay with that, I think. Are we left with just variable? Oh, no, no, I saw something. I saw something. Oh, these are things getting pushed to the stack. So we still have some variable issues. Variable issues. I want anything that's not a variable issue. Variable issue. Bug. This is my least favorite part of this. Is getting all the vars correct. So let's temp v0_4 is gone. So let's find uses of this field. And just make sure that I'm using the same var. I am. Let's try velocity x. What's my multiplier? This actually looks like it possibly is its own velocity. I don't give it a name anywhere else. It's too bad. So let's call it velocity. Oh, most of these have gone. Okay, so all the unnamed bars are gone. That's good. $98. What is our... So it looks like some variable differences and some differences down here on 310. So we're getting close. This looks like ordering, and we should be able to get the ordering correct a little easier on the PSP. When possible, I like to use ++, but it doesn't always work. So let's go grab that line and just make sure that it works. And now we want to look at each of the offsets, make sure that those are correct. Yeah, those seem correct. This is somewhat interesting that raw flag is getting set up here and then getting reset down here. Is that gonna... Oh, that was it. let's go back and look at that. So here, step S was a plus equals 1. Usually this does not affect things, but in this case it did. Quite significantly. Here too. And I think that was it for the PlayStation. This probably matches. Oh, it doesn't. Nope. Drat. It won't affect the PSP. Alright, so the PSP is our answer to the variable issue. And now we have to go through and carefully document what each of these is and how it's used, and then try to figure out which register belongs to which variable. So let's do it. Distance X, let's go. Distance X ends up being S1, and right now ours is S5. And so we'll go through and see, are they used the same way always? When they're ephemeral, there's nothing to do. Looks like possibly in 120. Nope. To get my S5 highlighted again. It looks like possibly angle is being set here and then masked. No difference either way. Okay. Distance Y. So we still have a few things that are getting pushed to the stack when they shouldn't be. Distance Y is S3. $165 should be distance Y. Looks like... Nope, that's fine. $226. Oh, distance Y and pause Y might be the same thing. And distance X and pause X might be the same thing. So that's an easy change. That's much better. Primarily because I'm guessing the stack is getting cleaned up. We're going to do the same thing for distance Y. It might break some things. We'll see. Overall, it's significantly better, though. fine. Distance. Oh, is distance not used? Is that one gone? That's gone. All right, so getting closer. We don't have a S7. And S7 is S2. That means it's ephemeral. S6, S3. Oh, it's getting close. Okay, we have S2 versus S7 on 161. And S2 was angle. Let's make sure we don't need angle. 61. Looks fine. It still works out much better. Stack is correct now. I don't think we have a rotate variable anymore. All right, so what we're left with is just a handful of register swaps. Some which may be easy and some which may not be. We don't control any of these ephemeral ones. So the not pose timer, we could try checking that against 0. We get a bunch of extra instructions, so I don't think it's that. Sorry, it should be checking it equal to 0, but we're gonna get the same thing. I do think this might have resolved the remaining issues in the PlayStation version. Yes. So I think the PlayStation is solved. Order of variable declarations, possibly. I don't think in this case, because these are the variables that are being used ephemerally. Or, you know, you're absolutely correct. Let's... A lot of times the A versus V comes from comparisons. But it doesn't seem to be the case here. It also may be related to signedness. So if we can show show that the signs for some of these are wrong. The likelihood of this being unsigned, for example, is pretty low. It doesn't change anything though. Maybe move entity doesn't have a declaration. Oh, yeah. I do it. Let's. In general, yeah, that's a pretty good guess. Declarations are not necessarily common to have forward declarations. Yeah, we try unsigned there. Usually, MetroWorks groups 32-bit and 16-bit declarations together. So it's a little interesting to find S2 kind of in the mix between both of these. It looks like there's still a few things. So let me try to resolve those. It may be related, maybe not. It also is possible that well, no, there should be two different bars there, 245. It may definitely have something to do with a function that does not have the correct arguments. Let's look at PlayStation 1. Just making sure that that does look like it is correct. Yeah, PlayStation 1 I think is done. I'm gonna mark that one as complete. Let's go top to bottom again. So somewhere in here, my guess is that there is a comparison or sign signedness or type, especially with the illegal, that may be wrong. And it could be could have to do with the variable access. I might be accessing these inconsistently. So let's do that. Let's make a harpy entity. That has to be done anyway. I don't think there's going to be a harpy yet. So let's look at what we have here. So the first one we have is the sine 16 at offset 4. So we have say unsigned 32. Just make it a bit field, anonymous bit field. So we have 80 is a sine 16. Call it unknown 80. Hey CMS, Calver. Sorry, I missed your messages. What am I messing with in that code? 45 minutes later, I'm finally getting to your message. We're looking at the harpy. Apologies for missing the messages earlier. Index for S30. So Dizik is suggesting that one of our offsets is overlapping another, and that's definitely possible. So let's try to figure that out. They can possibly overlap if it's a fixed 32, for example, where that type is a union, and we might have cases where we want to read it as a 32-bit value or one of the 16-bit halves, top or bottom, high or low. It's they. Okay. We'll just keep looking for each of those and assigning them. So we have 14 bytes, and that's further than I want to do right now. So offset 3 is going to be unknown 82. I'm just going to call them unknown for now until this one is named Angle, but I don't know if that's a good name yet. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. We'll call it Angle. A more specific angle might be better. So what are we looking at? It looks like it's So harpies kind of move around kind of in a circular motion. It's probably related to that. So offset 6. So we have 3, 4. 5. And I think this is offset 6 then. For sine 16s. And make sure that I'm keeping the right offset. Oh, duh, 88. Yeah, so mostly what this is going to hopefully ultimately tell us is whether or not, let's see if there's offset 7. If any of these are overlapping or otherwise. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing... S16, 7. So this is some kind of timer. An unsigned 8 bytes in is interesting. So it would actually be here. That's fine. So let's make this 24 at offset 85. And so our offset 84 is a unsigned 8. And that's being treated as unsigned. And is there any difference? No, there's not. So we don't know if it's signed or not. And let's see if we can tell what this is doing. So I think this is a feather counter. Possibly. Do we have more than 3 feathers at a time? Do I have Duck Station open still? Let's see if I can. I'm not gonna be able to turn Duck Station on because of... Let's do this. Save it. So, is it here? Mouse my controller. I don't have a controller that works at the moment. Well, my time is running out, so I think I'm going to leave this as a cliffhanger for today. Come back tomorrow, and we'll see if we can figure out the last of this for the PSP. I do think, though, that we do have a match for the PlayStation, and I think this is just going to be something something subtle, something simple, and it might be this right here, 254. Ooh. Something still off about that. Yeah, something a little odd about that. So we'll come back tomorrow and try to finish it off. You can go to soten.z.dev to learn more about the Symphony of the Night Decomp project. Find a link to GitHub and a link to Discord, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Adios.